The mansion stood quietly on the edge of the city, tall glass walls reflecting the morning sun, and silence echoing through every corner like a haunting memory. Inside lived one of the richest men in the country, Victor Hale, a self-made millionaire known for his empire and his heart of stone. But behind his success was a story few knew. The story of his little girl, Sophia, who hadn't spoken a single word since the day her mother died. Sophia was 6 years old, with soft brown hair and eyes that carried oceans of pain. She would sit by the window for hours, staring into nothingness, clutching a small teddy bear that once belonged to her mother. No laughter, no sound, just silence. Doctors called it selective mutism triggered by trauma. But Victor didn't care for medical terms. He cared about one thing only, his daughter's pain. He had tried everything: therapy, doctors, toys, even trips to exotic places. But Sophia remained trapped in her own quiet world. Victor's mansion, though filled with luxury, felt emptier than ever. Then one morning, as Victor sat in his office reviewing files, his assistant entered. "Sir, the agency sent a new nanny for Sophia. They said she has experience with children who have emotional trauma." Victor didn't even look up from his papers. "Fine, let her start today," he said coldly. That's how Clara entered their lives. Clara was in her late 20s, gentle-faced with kind eyes that spoke more than words. She wasn't intimidated by Victor's wealth or the mansion's cold walls. When she first met Sophia, she sat by the window as usual, holding her teddy, eyes blank. Clara quietly walked to her, sat on the floor beside her, and started humming softly, a lullaby the kind a mother would sing. Sophia didn't react at first, but Clara didn't stop. She placed a small toy near her feet and whispered, "You don't have to talk to me, Sophia. I'll talk to you." Every day she returned to that same spot, speaking to her about the world, about colors, about how the wind whispered through the trees. Victor, watching from the corridor, felt an unfamiliar tug in his chest. He had seen dozens of nannies come and go, giving up after a week. But this woman, she was different. Days turned into weeks. Sophia began to follow Clara silently around the garden. She'd watch her feed the birds, paint pictures, and sometimes laugh quietly to herself. And one morning, something changed. Clara was cleaning the backyard fountain when she slipped on the wet stones and fell. The sound startled Sophia. She ran toward her, panic flashing in her eyes. Clara smiled despite the pain. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm fine." Sophia froze. For a moment, her lips trembled as if she wanted to say something, but she couldn't. That evening, Victor called Clara to his study. "You've done something no one else could," he admitted, his voice softer than usual. "She follows you now. That's progress." Clara smiled faintly. "She doesn't need someone to treat her like a patient, Mr. Hale. She needs someone to love her." That night, Victor couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. He had built an empire to protect himself from pain, but in doing so, he had forgotten how to heal the pain of the one who needed him most. The next morning, Clara prepared breakfast in the kitchen. Sophia came in quietly, sat at the table, and watched her cook. Clara smiled and said, "Good morning, Sophia." She didn't respond, but her eyes followed Clara's hands as she made pancakes shaped like stars. "These are for you," she said warmly, placing them on her plate. For the first time, Sophia took a bite without being asked. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Victor, standing near the doorway, saw it all. Something inside him broke, the wall he had built for years. He whispered to himself, "Maybe she's the one who can save her." Days passed. Clara filled the house with warmth, music, laughter, and colors. She would paint with Sophia, plant flowers, and sometimes just sit quietly beside her under the tree where her mother used to sit. Slowly, Sophia began to smile and point. One evening, it started to rain. Clara took Sophia outside, holding an umbrella. "You know," she said gently, "rain is the sky's way of washing away sadness." Sophia looked up, letting a few drops fall on her face. For the first time in years, she giggled, a small, fragile sound that made Clara freeze. From the balcony, Victor heard it too. He rushed downstairs, heart pounding. He saw his daughter laughing softly in the rain, holding Clara's hand. It was the most beautiful thing he had seen since his wife's death. That night, Victor couldn't help but thank Clara. "You've given me something priceless," he said quietly. "Hope." Clara smiled. "It's Sophia who's finding her way back, Mr. Hale. She just needed someone to remind her what love feels like." But little did they know, the biggest miracle was yet to come. The next morning, Clara was in the garden humming again when Victor received a phone call that made his face pale. A deal gone wrong. A betrayal by someone close. Millions at stake. He stormed out of the house, anger burning through him. Sophia, hiding behind the door, saw her father yell into the phone and throw it against the wall. She trembled, her eyes wide with fear. Clara rushed in, kneeling beside her. "Hey, it's okay. Your dad's just upset. He'll be fine." But Sophia shook her head and ran to her room, tears falling silently. Later that night, Clara found Sophia sitting by the window again, clutching her teddy. "Sophia," she whispered softly, "you're brave. You know that. You don't have to hide from the world anymore. You can show it how strong you are." For a moment, Sophia looked at her, eyes glistening. Then something happened. Something unbelievable. Clara picked up a broken toy from the floor and began fixing it. "You see," she said, smiling, "even broken things can work again if we care enough." Sophia stared at her, her lips parting slightly. She took a deep breath and in a voice barely above a whisper, she said the first words she'd spoken in years. "Thank you." Clara froze, tears streaming down her face. "Sophia, you spoke," she gasped. She pulled her into her arms, sobbing with joy. Victor, who had been standing silently at the doorway, dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes. He had waited years to hear his daughter's voice, and it came, not through therapy, not through money, but through love. Victor walked toward them, voice trembling. "Sophia, my girl." Sophia looked up, her small voice shaking but clear. "Dad." The word hit Victor like a thunderbolt. He fell to the floor, hugging his daughter tightly, both crying in each other's arms. Clara stood beside them, smiling through her tears. That night, the mansion was no longer silent. The echoes of laughter and love filled every corner once more. And as the moonlight touched the glass walls, Clara whispered a prayer of gratitude, for miracles, for healing, and for second chances. But little did she know, this was just the beginning. Because what Sophia saw her do next, something she thought no one would ever notice, would change everything.